Two new M12 Random Orbital Sanders from Milwaukee. We've got the Milwaukee 2584 and the Milwaukee 2585. They're the M12 FUEL 6-inch Random Orbital Sanders. One is in the 3/16 inch orbit, the other one in a 3/32 inch orbit. Or if you look at millimeters, then you're going to be 2.5 millimeter and 5 millimeter. Now let's dive in, take a closer look at these features. Then we're actually going to put them to the test and to see how long will they last on the small 2.5 amp hour battery that is included in the kit. We don't typically do unboxings during our reviews, but there's a lot packed in each one of these boxes, and a lot of it's exactly the same, and some of it is different. So I wanted to cover some of that as we're taking these apart. So both of these are the Milwaukee 6-inch Random Orbital Sanders. Runs on their M12 platforms. It is an M12 FUEL, so that tells us we do get a brushless motor. We get the latest in technology. We're also going to get two batteries in these kits as well. The CP 2.5, which is the smaller M12 battery, and the the XC 5.0 battery also. And packed in here is also a charger. Now we'll see right here on the box, it says up to 5 doors per CP 2.5 pack. The CP 2.5 is this pack right here. And again, we'll see it in one moment. But if you'll look over here, it says up to 3 doors per CP 2.5 pack. So this one does 5 doors, that one does 3 doors. Well, it's really meant for two different things. This is the 3/32 or the 2.5 millimeter stroke or millimeter orbit. And this is the 3/16 orbit or 5 millimeter orbit. So this is going to be much more aggressive of a tool, made for sanding Bondo, sanding off primer, things like that. This is going to be more for on the detailing side, maybe even paint correction side, where you may be sanding nibs, sanding clear coat, things like that. So higher grit on the sandpaper, you know, in the 600, 800, 1,000, 1,500 range. And again, this is going to be more of your, 80 grit, 100 grit, and up to your, say, 400 grit or so. And so that's going to be a much more aggressive. This is going to be less aggressive. So this is going to last longer, less wear and tear on the tool, or less demand on the battery, if you will. So let's get these open and check it out. Well, right away, I see a lot of redundancy here, and not just because we have two different sanders, but even within each one of the kits, two different dust ports, two different pads. We have the 5.0 and the 2.5 battery. We have this here, it looks like for a vacuum hose end, and obviously we have the charger. It's not because we have extras of the pads and extras of the dust ports. Let's talk about that before we talk about the performance of the tool. One thing I do really like is let's say that you're looking to purchase one of these and maybe you want to buy both of them and you have them both hanging on your toolbox or something like that. You can quickly identify which one is the more aggressive or the 3/16 inch sander by the red pad. So you see both of these pads have the red edge, or actually through and through the pad is red, and you see the pad or the backing plate on the 3/32 or the 2.5 millimeter, the smaller orbit, is black. So quickly identify those without looking at model numbers or without seeing a number on them or anything like that. So I like that. Even though at the top we do have 2.5 and 3/32 right there, and on this one we have 5.0 or 3/16 right there. So get two pads, and both of the pads for the smaller orbit are going to be black in color, and on the larger orbit it's going to be red in color as well. I'm not sure if there's a firmer one versus the other. Actually, yeah, it says this one says soft and this one says firm. So the rubber density is more dense or more firm on the red, on the larger orbit, versus on the backing plate on the smaller. So I like that as well. These dust ports, they are not the same. They're actually opposites if we look at them right here. And the reason being is because based on how you hold your sander and how you want to extract the dust, it can be left output or input, whatever you want to call that, for suction, or we can put it on on this side where it can go right side. So that's why they included one of each on here, because you may want to sand right-handed, or you may be a lefty, or you may like to have the hose on the left side of you or the right side of you, whatever. But typically you probably have your druthers, and so you have a dust port with just as easy as, you know, pulling out some hex screws or hex-headed screws, Allen screws. You can actually change that out, and they even include the Allen wrench with it as well. This is to adapt to whatever vacuum you're going to use. Obviously, that's going to fit right on a Milwaukee vacuum. But also, this one here is actually going to clip onto this and lock into place. And then when you're done, easily unclip it, and you're good to go. So they include this with it as well. I like the fact that they're doing that. But again, then it's going to adapt to whatever small end vacuum that you are using. Also, these backing plates or these pads are not the same. It's not just an extra here. If we look on the bottom side here, we see hook and loop. If we look on the bottom side here, we see hook and loop as well. If we look on the bottom side here, this is PSA, or basically for your adhesive discs. So if whether you're gluing them on or they're self-adhesive, what have you. So they include that as well. I love that. Some people love to use the PSA still, and that's absolutely fine. And some people like to use one in, you know, a certain window of abrasives, and then hook and loop on the other side of the abrasives, and that's absolutely fine too. Also, changing these out are very, very easy. You do not have to use a wrench with the M12 sander. Now, if we'll take a look at this, so we see on this side we have a speed dial, and then obviously our throttle. If we flip this around, really nothing over here except right here, looking at the base of the pad, you see there's some teeth there, and if I push that down, so you see that? I don't have to push it in, I just have to push it down. So once I push this down, that little tab clicks out. So push it down, that clicks out, and now I pull it out some more. And what that does, that locks this, and now I can pull off my pad and change that out. So you see how that's working. Push that out, that wrench goes away, pull it down, clicks it out, pull it all the way out, and make sure it locks into place. So you may have to spin it just a little bit, and now I can put on my PSA pad. Change it out. And maybe if for some reason I wanted to switch over to a firmer pad, I could do that as well. So very easy to do so with no tools needed. And I like the fact there's really no plastic in there either. All this is metal. We even see the counterweight here, which gives it its oscillations. And then once we got it locked into place, push this down, and now we're back to free spinning. Also, I want to point out that the spindle size is a 5/16 inch, 24 thread per inch spindle. So pretty typical in the industry, but that is the thread size, 5/16 24. Now let's throw a battery in here really quick and see how this thing operates. So again, we showed before a second ago that we have a speed dial right here where we can dial this in. And basically this is going to allow you to change from 3,200 RPM up to 12,000 RPM. Also, that's going to be your max setting. You can also throttle the speed with the trigger here on the top with your hand, with your finger, however you're going to press that. First, I need to power this on. So when I power it on, that's our fuel gauge right there, like your typical M12 tools. You always have the indicator on the tool itself. The green light's going to give you a quick indication that we do have a good charge on there. Push it again, that's going to turn it off. Hold it, turn it on. And then again, we can kind of throttle this, even though I have this in the max setting. Based on the input of the trigger, I can set the speed at whatever I want to, or again, I can set the max speed as well. So then I can push the trigger all the way down and it's still not going to go faster than I want it to. You're probably going to be somewhere in that mid to medium high range when you're sanding, especially on your more aggressive stuff with your 80 grits, 60 grits, 240, 400, that sort of thing. And obviously the 2.5 amp hour battery is going to be a lot smaller and give you a much more nimble tool, if you will. But at the same time, it's not like that the 5.0 is really getting in the way either. So it is a little bit broader and a little bit deeper there on the tool. But again, it's kind of, you know, in line with your arm and it really shouldn't be getting in the way. All right, so here's our plan. We have a hood off of a Silverado. You see paint is worn, slapped through, primer worn through. We've got rust here. I'm not really trying to take this down to bare metal right this second to test this, but I am going to try to use it like if we were scuffing the primer or, you know, scuffing the body fill or something like that. So I will hit it pretty good. I'm going to use some 100 grit. I think that's just kind of a fair trade. I'm not going to take 60 and knock everything off yet, but I'm going to try to cover this whole hood with the 2.5 amp hour battery. Now, since they claim 3 doors with the 2.5, I think that's a fair comparison to do one hood rather than 3 doors. And I know that the 5.0, or at least I'm 95% confident that the 5.0 battery would be able to tackle it, but let's try it with the 2.5. And I'm going to start with no dust extraction first. I do have my dust port on there, but I'm going to start out with no dust extraction and then we'll hook it up and see what type of difference we have. I'm also going to start not in wide open, but let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say speed 4 right there. Let's turn it on first. There we go, full battery. So let's get started. Nope, I'm going to turn it all the way up. Okay, I'm going to turn it 1 down, about 5. Perfect. That's perfect. By the way, these things have very little vibration. I used it at the SEMA show. I also used it at Milwaukee. Was pretty impressed at the limited amount of vibration in this thing. You can really control it with 2 fingers. Got lots of dust flying around. Glad we're outside. By the way, we're going to spray bomb this thing. That's why we have it outside. Yeah, we're not going to mix up any paint. We're just going to throw some Rust-Oleum on it. Anyway, back to the sander, but let's hook up some dust extraction. So here's the adapter. Throw that on my vacuum hose. Clip that on. You see right away, no more dust flying. In fact, we're actually picking up the residual dust that was on there and pulling that through the sander. Okay, I'm going to stay out of this valley right here. I know I'm going to use some time up in doing that, but let's see if I can get the other half of the hood before I do that. And I really haven't rolled the front edge that much either, so I realize that. I have hit a couple of the small dents that are up here trying to get the rust out of those. But again, I'm going to leave the valleys here for right now. And by the way, I'm still showing 4 bars on that battery. So let me roll this nose and we should be good. Okay, so we've done the whole hood, we've done the nose, we've done the valleys, and again, I know they're not perfect, but we did scuff all of them and pretty much got everything here on the hood the same piece of paper. So I could have changed out the paper halfway through and probably got a little quicker cut on that second half. But you're looking at 2 bars still left on this battery. Now, I did see while I was using it, it dropped to 1, which is pretty common. And then when you turn the tool off, sometimes it'll come back because it's just measuring voltage. So sometimes once you go back to rest, it'll go back. But just being clear that I did see it drop to 1, but now it's at 2. But still, we did that complete panel with a single sheet of 100 grit sandpaper, knocking that rust and paint off, and just works really, really well with very little vibration, plenty of power, and on one 2.5 amp hour battery. To be honest, when we used these at Milwaukee and then again at SEMA, we were pretty much blown away as far as the performance of these. Very low vibration, very easy to handle, very centered center of gravity. Dust extraction works phenomenal. We love the fact that you get actually a dust port that comes off the right-hand side or the left-hand side. Also love the fact it comes with a hook and loop pad as well as a PSA or a sticky pad, or one that you can use your sticky discs on. Also, if you get the kit, you're going to get the 5 amp hour battery as well as the 2.5 amp hour battery. And you also get the dust extraction tool that actually clips on to the dust port. So it's not just pressed on. And so it will not only swivel, but it's not going to come apart. So that will be included as well. Now, you are going to pay a price for this because now you no longer need a compressor to drive your air tool. However, you're going to pay the price of a cordless tool, and you're looking at $299 for the bare tool, and that's for each one. So the 2584 will cost you $299 or the 2585. But if you step up to the kit, which is going to include that 2.5 amp hour battery and the 5 amp hour battery, you're looking at $450, and that's going to give you a 3-year warranty on the tool, a 3-year warranty on the 5.0 battery, but then the 2.5 amp hour battery only has a 2-year warranty. So look at 3-year warranties other than the 2.5 amp hour, which is going to give you that 2-year warranty. They're really able to lay down the power now at the cost of actually going through batteries. However, we showed you actually doing that entire hood. In fact, we did the entire hood, and then we came back with some 320 grit and did about, I don't know, another quarter of the hood with the same 2.5 amp hour battery. And that was after we went around all the edges again and through the valleys and everything else. So we feel like we got a complete large panel. That was a full-size truck hood with a 2.5 amp hour battery. So if you're going to be doing a complete car, yeah, you're going to go through some batteries. With the 5.0, you're going to get twice the run time on that, so that's going to last you quite a bit longer, and you could be swapping these out on the charger while you're going. Now, we didn't use the 332nd, but that's going to be perfect for, again, doing your paint detailing, your color correction, as well as going back and denibbing, things like that. This is going to be an excellent tool for that. With those smaller orbits, just going to be that much more detailed. Hey, let us know what you think. We know probably a pretty high price compared to your typical air or pneumatic sanders. However, if you're stepping up in the nicer sanders in the pneumatic side too, you're still going way above that $100 mark as well. I believe the dust extraction is top bar on this. Other than like a Festool or 3M, which is a Festool, I don't know if anybody's doing it better than Milwaukee is. It was pretty much picking up everything that we were sanding and doing a great job at it. So, hey, let us know what you think in the comments. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day. Keep smiling.